Hey, this is Brain Muffin, and welcome to the Fancaste for World Class Bullshitters, episode 73, and the week's videos. I'm your host, Brain Muffin, and with me tonight is the infamous Kendo Slice.
What's going on, Kendo Slice and the Hizzy? God, that was so stupid.
That's all right. So tonight we're gonna, the boys covered in episode 73 and several other videos around the week. They covered quite a few things about Star Wars news. They also covered various things with Wonder Woman, and I think we even had a James Bond death in real life.
Yeah.
So on Star Wars, we had Curtis talking about, in particular, one of the things was the big secret. And what he thought was the only reveal, they each talked about the only reveal they want to do. So, Kendo, what do you think of Curtis's, the only thing that was good for him was that was going to work for him, that Rey is Luke's daughter?
Okay, so of all the different theories and everything that's been bandied about, oh, this is what's going to happen, this is what's going to happen, I think this is going to happen. Unfortunately, the only thing that really I think would be the easiest thing for them to do is turn around and say, yeah, Rey's Luke's daughter. He hooked up with some, slut on a far distant planet one day and gave in to his desires and wasn't a very good Jedi and banged this chick and got her pregnant. And then to protect Rey or to hide his shame, he stuck her on faux Tatooine.
Faux Tatooine. Well, Tatooine too, or something, with only one son. But I don't know if you saw a video by Jenny. I forget her last name. She covered one of these topics of if that's Luke's daughter. So imagine he says that, and what's the look on her face? Like, you did what? Left me to starve?
Say which time? The only thing she ever does is put looks on her face.
Well, I know that. The bug-eyed, the big eyes, big open mouth for 2.5 hours. Well, no, I mean, imagine, wouldn't she not feel abandoned by her father? It's different if she was there with her mother and her mother dies or something. He never comes to look for her, right? He's just a historical figure that she somehow on some data disk found out about, right? It's just a name in the past. I know it's only 25, 30 years or whatever, but yeah, I don't know. To me, I think she's Luke's daughter, but to me, that's just stupid. But
bitch certainly is going to have some kind of daddy issues, though, because daddy abandoned me. Now I got to go and do whatever girls with daddy issues do. I'm not going to bring it up. This is a family show.
Right. Well, Luke, has some issues, too. Now, obviously, he's put on Tatooine with his uncle, and I guess it's supposed to be his grandmother's brother or something, But, there are some daddy issues if you want to talk about that, because in Empire, his dad's trying to kill him, basically. He's going to join us or die,
Which is a good message, personally. I look at it that way. If you're running the Empire and your biggest threat is, your bastard kid running around, and it's like, dude, hook up with our Empire and let's rule the thing or I'm going to kill you. That's really what you got to do at that point.
Well, that's kind of like European history, right? The royals, that they did that kind of thing. So that kind of fits, and even the Roman Empire. So it fits that concept of a tyrannical overlord in almost any culture where, if the king is getting along, he thinks, hey, I'm going to live another 10 or 15 years, yet my son, or the other way around, where the son is like, you know what, I'm tired of waiting for the throne, it's time for dad to go.
True story.
So that's happened quite a bit. Now, if I remember correctly, there was some comment about, I think it was from Jeff or from Nick about, I think it was Jeff, about, Rey being evil, May being Palpatine's or Darth Sidious reincarnated. I found that I like the first part of that. I would like the thing to be that Rey suddenly, I don't know, halfway through the Empire version 2, becomes evil, and Kylo is kind of left to save the day in the third movie.
So in other words, Rey's going to have a heel turn, and that's
well. In my understanding, I did not read it, but my understanding of the novelization of the movie, she hears a voice that when they're fighting and she knocks him down and she's like hovering over him and twirling the lightsaber like she's been doing it since she was 2. She hears a voice in the novelization about killing. It's not in the movie. So there's been all kinds of theories of that voice was Darth Sidious.
I could see that.
Or Snoke. Could be Snoke. I mean, that's the other thing, is who the heck is Snoke. And
maybe it was Solo trying to get revenge.
Right. And I forget, let me look here really quickly, who, somebody brought up maybe it was in the other video, about Rey. But part of the thing, too, that, I don't know. At this point, I don't even know if I want to know who Rey is.
I don't think I even really care who Rey is. That's the thing. I just don't care. The other day I was over at my friend's house and he's like, "Hey, you want to hang out and watch a movie?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure. Turn something on." He turned on The Force Awakens. I left. I was like, "I'm not watching this." I'm like, "All right, man. I'll see you later." And I took off. I'm like, "Fuck that." But they've never really, in my opinion, I never really got a reason to care about any of the characters in that movie, save the ones from the original trilogy. Like Princess Leia, okay, yeah, I kind of care about seeing what happens to her. Han Solo, Chewbacca, yeah, sure, I want to see what happens with them. Luke even. But like the new characters that they introduced, it's like I don't give a shit about any of these people.
Right.
Well, I mean, at least back in the original movie, the first A New Hope, like I actually cared about what happened with Biggs Darklighter. He just seemed interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Right. There was the main characters. There was enough character development and growth during that movie that I actually took an investment in the characters. I used Biggs as an exaggerated example, but you understand what I'm saying. Like, right. You actually invest. No, Biggs lives. I'm pretty sure, doesn't he? Wait, does he die?
He gets blown up. Wedge pulls out. Biggs is his best friend.
That's right. I was thinking Wedge. Yeah. Even Wedge has character growth over the course of the trilogy.
No, there's an interesting sidebar question that they didn't really ask. Well, they kind of do, because one of the questions that I don't remember. I need to take better notes. But one of the guys asked about, well, why are we doing all these? Why are we getting these movies that feels like, the trailer dropped for The Last Jedi, and my first instinct from within 10 seconds and through the whole 2-minute trailer is this is Empire. And they hit with a little bit of Return of the Jedi. They hit the Empire feels. We get a little bit of the space battle. There might be an epic space battle with these new ships that kind of look like the old ships. The new walkers that look like the old walkers. Apparently there's a bigger Star Destroyer. So the super Star Destroyer is in this one. Because, if you make the same thing but make it bigger, it's better. And so it does feel like Empire. But the question is why? Why are we getting this? We're getting a Kenobi movie, Solo movie, all this stuff. And, Nick said basically money, and I agree. It's like,
yeah, that's really what it boils down to.
The belief, and I don't remember this at the time of the prequels. That the reason why, because I was a prequel hater from the first episode, and I had friends and my cousins and family thought I was absolutely nuts. They liked them all. My kids liked them. They don't like them now, but they did like them when they were little. And I don't remember all this prequel hate until until Tron Legacy failed. And this is why I know it's a conspiracy theory, but I think Disney had everything to do with it. But to me, the prequels were too similar, not different. And there's this mythos. I almost lost my train of thought, but there's this mythos that people didn't like the prequels because they were too different, which I think is bullshit itself. But to me, so the belief is we got to redo the originals without making it look like we're redoing it. And so we're getting all these prequels. We got Rogue One, which I finally did see. I still haven't done a video on. But it's horrible, and it's Spaceballs basically. But
that was a good movie
without the comedy. I laughed really, really hard for the first almost. I don't know how long that movie. It's over 2 hours long, but up until they landed on the planet on Druidia to go steal the plans, I was laughing so hard at almost every scene that I almost was crying and passed out because it was so ridiculously stupid to me. But. Yes. So because we have this belief of the prequels, people hate them because they're too different, and we have to do the same. Disney's stuck in this we got to do everything again syndrome. Of course, it's not just Disney. Look at everybody. I mean, heck, we got a Baywatch reboot, which apparently is not good. We're getting a Wonder Woman-esque reboot. We got Warner Brothers rebooting everything. Every time you turn around, Sony's rebooting or doing something with Spider-Man. And I think that's because no one's willing to take a chance, and so we're going to get all this repeat nonsense. It is money, right? It is somewhat easy-ish money. Keep your budget in check. Keep your movie under $250 million. Do $200 to $250 million in marketing, and pull in $1 billion. Double your money. It's an easy formula, and Batman v Superman actually pulled in a fair amount of money, but it was like, I think 1.18. In other words, they got 18% return on their investment. Now, there's an interesting topic. Okay, so anyway, I brought up like 3 different topics, and I've been jibber-jabbering, so go ahead.
I was just going to say, well, my whole thing is they're just going to keep pumping out Star Wars movies, as many as they can, as long as they keep making money off of them, because even though people like us are going to see through the bullshit, we're going to be like, this is stupid, this is whatever, there is a huge segment of the population that is complete fucking idiots, and it's just Ermagerd Star Wars, I have to see this movie and tell them how great it is. I mean, there's reasons why terrible movies make a bunch of money, because the majority of the people that go see movies are dumb.
Now, not all terrible movies. Apparently Baywatch is doing pretty poorly. But I look at Baywatch, and I now that I've heard some reviews, it was a really good trailer. Like last year when the Chips movie came out and I watched the trailer, I'm like, okay, there's 2 dick jokes in the trailer. No thanks.
Right. Yeah.
Well, apparently there's that kind of crap in Baywatch, but they kept it out of the trailer. But now that it's out and people are reviewing it, I don't even know if it made $20 million yet. Or pulled in $20 million.
I haven't looked at it.
It's horrible.
I wasn't interested in the movie.
But again, it's part of this reboot. I mean, George Lucas, when the Charlie Rose interview, he hit the nail dead. I mean, he said Hollywood's not interested. If it's not a reboot and not a sequel, Hollywood's not interested. And so we have 2 major franchises, Star Trek and Star Wars, that are just in an eternal reboot. We have a new major franchise in the Marvel Cinematic Universe that is copying itself already multiple times. There's about 3 basic scripts that they just keep rehashing. This is part of why I'm really bored with it. And now we have DC trying to catch up by just basically finding, Aquaman was a joke in the 70s. I'm going to admit it. We used to make fun of him. Granted, 10 years old, no one had wanted Aquaman. That's just stupid. We made fun of how he swam, and he talks to fish. I mean, it's that simple. But we're getting their version of a reboot. Of course, my favorite DC character is Sergeant Rock, and I would faint if they actually made a Sergeant Rock movie, because he's about as politically incorrect as you can be without having hookers and blow literally.
Nice.
And I liked the men in the 70s, so I didn't realize how politically incorrect I was then. So anyway, and I think Nick, I think he got it right. It is about the money, and no one wants to take a chance. The chances, if you will, are on these sidebar movies, like with the release that Han Solo isn't his real name, or he earns a name. Part of it is understanding what they meant by that. It could be that he earns the prestige of the name. I don't know, but we'll see. And yeah, I want to see the thing go forward. I don't want to see it go sideways. This is just kind of, we're going in a spiral. We're not going in a circle, but we're kind of spiraling. I don't know. Maybe they'll redo the prequels, and we'll get an actual story that makes sense. Yeah,
can only hope that we'll get a reboot of the prequels, because maybe then people will finally realize, hey, they're going to do whatever it takes just to sell these movies.
Well, I think if we got a Ben Kenobi trilogy as opposed to single off, and then we got a Yoda, say, 2-parter, they could redo the prequels with those 5 movies.
Yeah, I mean, they could. I don't know. I was happy with the original trilogy. The prequels came out, and the prequels came out directly as an effect of the fact that George Lucas created the special editions. They made a ton of money off doing that, and he thought, hey, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to make these prequel movies with the idea of when he's like, oh, I had the story written all along. And it's like, no, you wrote it over a weekend because you saw how much money you brought in with your special edition movies. And you're right. Like, I first saw the prequels. At first I watched them, and I was part of the whole. I was like 16 when the first one came out, so it was like Irma Gerd, Star Wars. I gotta love this thing. But then, like, as I watched it a few more times, I'm like, other than the fact that Ewan McGregor and Liam Neeson, cannot remember their names. Other than the fact that they killed it, and Darth Maul was like a really, really cool, bad guy. Other than that, that movie was not very good. And then the second one was worse. But then the third one, I actually enjoyed Episode 3.
Yeah.
That one, actually, that was good. I enjoyed actually the whole film, whereas the second one, I didn't really like it at all. I just thought, again, Christopher Lee did a good job. The scenes with him and like Ewan McGregor were good.
Right.
Not so much with Hayden Christensen, but...
Well, Hayden Christensen needed better direction. I mean, my thing was, if you're going to parallel, because they were paralleling they were echoing, if you will, the beats of the original trilogy in many ways.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, if we're going to do a parallel, then let's start with Anakin at 19. I mean, that's what Luke was supposed to be. I mean, I know Mark was 24 when they made the movie, but just go with it. Leia was 19, and they're supposed to be twins. So, start Anakin at 19, and you can still have him be a slave if you want. You can still have, and I think the forced conception was kind of stupid. You can still have him do the pod racing. I mean, that was pretty cool. And
that scene was pretty cool. I enjoyed the pod racing. And
I think Darth Maul shouldn't have been killed.
No,
I think what you should have is him kill Qui-Gon.
He did.
And then walk off. And then so Kenobi has his closing moments. So let's say Qui-Gon's not quite dead. Tells him something to, train Anakin or do something. And then you kind of leave that there. I think Anakin should kill Darth Maul in a fit of rage. In other words, they should both be fighting him. Maybe Kenobi gets injured, and then in a fit of absolute rage, channeling the dark side, and that kind of starts his journey. But that's just my feelings on that.
Oh, I agree, because I did not like the idea that they killed Darth Maul off. It's like, and the fact that they also built him up, like, I just remember all the hype around the first movie. Like, every trailer had Darth Maul in it. Darth Maul stuff was everywhere. Hell, I found a thing the other day. It's from Taco Bell back then. It's the Darth Maul cup topper, and it's like the top of the big cup.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
They push Darth Maul hard, and then they go and they kill him in the first movie. It's like, this guy's supposed to be like this mega badass, and you get him iced in the first movie. That's okay. I mean, Count Dooku was all right and everything like that, but Darth Maul would have been so much better.
The thing with Count Dooku is, if you still had, maybe if you reversed it, if you're going to, because Christopher Lee's just too old to do that acrobatic stuff.
Right. Yes.
And then Yoda was all CG, so you could have him do whatever you wanted, which I think was...
Wait, that wasn't really Frank Oz flipping around? Shit.
But what was so dumb is that was so out of character for Yoda. He is a master of the Force in the subtlety of things. And so to have him... I know, it was cool for, I saw it in a preview or something, but I was like, okay, that's cool, but... It's not Yoda. That's Yoda, say, 300 years ago, 400 years ago. Because he's supposed to be almost 1,000 years old by,
if they would have stuck to, like, the Force battling, like, one guy throwing shit, Yoda's catching it in the air, firing it back, shooting lightning, and stuff like that, and they were just, if they would have left it at that, it would have been probably a lot better than when it was like, all right, let's see how you do with the lightsaber, and then Yoda went into, like, whirly bird mode, just flying around in a flash.
Right.
Even though it was cool, but I think it would have been better if they would have just been like, hey, this is the direction we're going with the character Yoda, because remember, he's old as hell at this point.
Right. He's
literally going to die in like 30 years, and he's already 900-something years old.
Yeah. Actually, I think, less, well, in the second one, it's going to be less than that, because that's, the second two are within like a couple years of each other, and then
either way.
Well, that's the big question, and that's one of the things that Jeff's brought up more than once. How much time is there between Empire? Two questions of time. How long does it take Han and Leia to get to Cloud City? And how much actual time is between Empire and Jedi? I've always been of the opinion that it actually took months for them to get to Cloud City.
Right.
It's something I have the novelization of Empire. Maybe I'm going to go dig it up because maybe it says I do not have Return of the Jedi. I don't know why, but I have Star Wars and I have Empire. And I always felt that it was a minimum of a year between those two movies as far as the timeline. It was, but they knew where he was. I mean, Luke ends it, with talking to Chewie. Is we'll meet you at the rendezvous on Tatooine, so they know where they're going.
They just doesn't really tell you how long of a time between the two events.
Right, and I think to have them infiltrate, there is a scene. There's actually two deleted scenes where they land and the Millennium Falcon and the X-wing fighter. They talk about stuff, and then Luke finishes building his lightsaber and puts it in R2, and then when they come back, there's a discussion. There's a big. You can't hear anything because it's just all fans blowing the dirt around, but it's supposed to be like a sandstorm coming in, and I forget the exact dialogue, but they wisely did the essence of that dialogue in the voiceover when they take off and they're in space. But anyway, that's been my long-held belief since I saw Empire back in '80. So that it was because one of my questions, being a science nerd, was is it sublight or not? Because if it's sublight, then it's going to be in about 140 years. But there's a hint of a slower backup light speed engine because they're not in the same star system. But again, that's when you start to get too much science into science fiction, and it kind of defeats the purpose of the fiction,
Yeah, I'm kind of like, I'm just going to suspend disbelief and just, I'm not really going to get completely into it like Mr. Commenter on your one video was getting into, like the Japanese battle tactics and Rey's lightsaber holding. I was like, dude, we're talking about a movie. Yeah. We're talking about a movie, dude.
Well, and the thing is he did not disprove or deny my basic premise in that the stance of a bow staff, a two-handed, especially when you use this, we see her use the staff in a widespread two-handed format, right? This is not close hand where you're basically using it as a linked nunchuck. This is a wider stance, and you have to use it like a pole arm more. That is, your stance is completely different than if you have a two-handed weapon where your hands are close and all the weight is above your hands, which is what a sword is like. He basically, said, well, hey, I've been studying Japanese tactics, whatever it was he said, but he never said, you're wrong because your foot's going to be here. And granted, it is a minor difference. It's not like it's huge, but as someone who has studied martial arts and played with and done things with weapons, the weight is significantly different, even though your foot may move an inch or two. But where your balancing point is, how you're distributing your weight on your feet makes a big difference.
Right.
And, it's, again, I know as we talked about previously, if she had a lightsaber that was more like Darth Maul's, I completely buy that, her usage of it. I still don't buy that she beats up Darth Emo, but I can buy that she can fight with that. And then we talk about that.
Yeah. 0 to Jedi badass in 3.4 days.
Right. Well, that was one of my first WCBS things. With and Jeff starts that one. I am emotionally gutted, and that's exactly how I felt. I mean, that is the lowest energy I've heard of him on any podcast, and I think even including our next topic, which is the death of Roger Moore. So, he was making he was making another video. I think he was talking about Snyder being out.
Yeah, he was doing Snyder out weeding in on the Justice League, and while he was doing that, he got like a news alert or something that said Roger Moore passed away, and he immediately halted everything he was doing to make the Roger Moore video because Jeff loves James Bond.
Right. And I believe that's his least. Is that his least favorite Bond, or is Timothy Dalton?
I think he said Timothy Dalton, but I'm not 100% positive.
Yeah, I know that he likes Sean Connery the best.
Everyone loves Sean Connery.
Yeah. And, I obviously grew up with the Roger Moore. Well, I kind of grew up with Roger Moore and Timothy Dalton. So I was in high school when Timothy Dalton took over. Um, the first Bond movie, I think, may have been Moonraker. But you also had Connery come back for Never Say Never Again. Is that the one he came back for?
Yeah, I think it was. It was Never Say Never Again because he came as Roger Moore went on hiatus. Sean Connery came back, made one movie, left, and then like Roger Moore came back and I think made like one more movie, and then Timothy Dalton took it over. I think I'm not 100% positive, but I think that's what happened.
I want to say Timothy Dalton, that first movie of his came out in.
I think it was 87. It was either like 86, 87. It was The Living Daylights. It was either I think it was The Living Daylights.
I remember a movie
because
84. Yeah, The Living Daylights is 87. So I've got to figure out what the heck I'm thinking of. And because it was when I was because I know I was in biology class because I had class with Jim Palmer, and that would have been 83, 84.
Jim Palmer, the baseball player?
Yeah, no.
I was like, damn, he was like a full-fledged professional at that point. I guess he never graduated.
No. So I don't know, but because I remember him complaining about how whoever was playing James Bond, he didn't like how they were, and like I said, obviously is not Timothy Dalton because you're right. The Living Daylights is 87.
And then he made License to Kill. That was 1990, I think.
89.
89.
At least according to IMDb.
That's
so
close enough.
But maybe I'm just, old enough that I've got 6 different memories all crammed into one, and it's not.
You misremembered it.
Well, here we go. Your list of James Bond films. And then there's also, was it Roger Lazenby? Is that his name?
George Lazenby. He was on Her Majesty's Secret Service. That's the one and only film he made.
George Lazenby.
I want to say it was between Connery and Moore when he made that, but I'm not 100% positive.
So, yeah, I don't know what movie I'm thinking of, because The View to a Kill is 1985, Octopussy 1983.
View to Kill was Roger Moore's last one.
No, it's quite possible that it's Octopussy, because if that came out, depending on when that was released, if I was in Germany at the time, we wouldn't have seen it it was in June, so there's a good chance that came out to us months later. That's basically how things work when you're military brat overseas. And then I actually liked Pierce Brosnan's portrayal of Bond.
I also really enjoyed it. The very first Bond movie I recall knowing that I was seeing was GoldenEye.
Yeah.
And then I've since then have watched every Bond movie except the Daniel Craig movies. I just haven't watched those. For some reason, I just never sat down to watch any of them. I probably should, because I heard some of them are there's a couple of them that are pretty good, but I don't know, for some reason I just didn't watch any of the ones he's made yet.
Well, I saw Casino Royale.
I heard that was really, really good.
It was very. Now, granted, this was following really, because I have read several of the Bond books years ago, and that one he falls in love, he gets married, he dies. This is what happens early on. It may be in Casino Royale in the book itself. I don't remember which books I read, and I don't even know if I have them anymore. But to me, some of the violence was very disturbing to me, and it felt out of place in a Bond film. It was almost too realistic. There wasn't this, I don't say cartoonish, but there was, the other movies, yeah, they were violent, but it was, I don't know what the word I'm looking for. It's not just simulated. It's
acceptable because it was shooting Soviets.
Well, no, it was, I guess, tame. I don't know what I'm looking for. But I will admit that which period it was Timothy Dalton. What was the one that had they were hiding the cocaine in the gasoline tanks?
That was License to Kill, I'm pretty sure, because it had one of the guys from Die Hard that was one of the helicopter gunner sniper guys. It was the one of the, I cannot think of his name, but yeah, he was like the bad guy. And
that's the one that had who's that singer? Wayne Newton, isn't he in it? Oh, Bless Your Heart.
Yeah.
Yeah, that movie just rubbed me the wrong way. And every, that was, Wayne Newton was in it. It is like, it is License to Kill. But to me, Timothy was, I don't know. Roger Moore, I understand Jeff's comments about it's almost being slapsticky, but to me, it brought a level of, it was like slightly imprecise comedic timing. Now, granted, Live and Let Die with Jane Seymour. Oh my God! I mean, the woman's gorgeous in that movie. But I don't know how much of that was Roger Moore and how much of that is a change in director and writing and everything else. I don't see Never Say Never Again listed here. This is odd. Is that a non-official Bond film?
I'm not 100% sure. I want to say it's also kind of a remake. Because I know one of the I don't know if I'm wrong in that Never Say Never Again is a remake of Thunderball, or Thunderball was kind of a remake of something else. Let me look it up and see.
Okay. Oh, they're non-Ian, so that wasn't an Ian Fleming film. That's the thing. So, Thunderball, years later joined McElroy used his rights to Thunderball and joined forces with producer Jack Schwartzman and studio Warner Brothers to adopt the novel into So they adopted the novel Thunderball, perhaps? So it was McElroy, one of the original writers of the Thunderball storyline, retained the filming rights of the novel following the rights controversy. So that's why. It is the Thunderball novel. So it may be a second attempt at doing Thunderball to movie.
Yeah, it sounds about right.
Oh, the neighbor's back.
Yes, I hear her. I love it when people show up on... I don't understand how they're able to see out there anyway, because it's not 100% dark, but it's dark enough that my yard's going to have like weird squiggles and shit in it now.
So are they mowing your yard?
Yeah, see, I don't mow my own lawn. I consider lawn mowing for poor people, so I'm not going to do that. I'm going to pay some kid to do it.
All right, no problem. That's like me and the... I'd rather pay some... I haven't seen them in a while, but every time we got a heavy snow, there was these two kids, this black kid and a white kid, that each have a shovel, and they didn't do the greatest job, but for $20 I could get them to... And my driveway is not very long, but they would do the sidewalks and the driveway, and I don't have to get out in the snow and do all that crap. But they did a good enough job as far as I'm concerned. $10 a piece, and they're done in 15 minutes. But it beats me out there for an hour trying to kill my back. But so anyway, returning to our topic, I guess if I was to rate the James Bonds, I would definitely put Dalton at the bottom. I have seen most of the, including the George Lazenby movie. I kind of, it's like I put Roger Moore first, or Sean Connery first, rather, and all the rest of them second, except Timothy. And then I put him like in a way distant third, like almost 10th, even though there haven't been that many. Not counting the David Niven and Peter Sellers and all the others who did. There was a Casino Royale spoof of spy movies, which is actually very good. And you talk about a non-Ian film, that is hilarious.
That one is a funny film. I've seen that because David Niven's James Bond, and then isn't like
Peter Sellers is Bond, and then there's some women that are Bond. It's really strange.
And then I think Woody Allen's in it too, and he plays like Jimmy Bond.
Yeah,
or
like his son or nephew or something like that.
Yeah, he's like nephew Jimmy Bond or something like that, and he just keeps. Yeah, because I'm looking at it now. It says the tagline says Casino Royale is too much for one James Bond. So
yeah, And Ursula Andress is in that. I mean, you do have
Yes.
some people who are actually, she's a Bond girl, and you've got Orson Welles.
Yep, he's in.
It's because he's retired, and they're going to go find him, and they get these guys get eaten by tigers and all this stuff. I mean, it's pretty good. And then if you haven't seen, is it Doctor Strangelove or How I Learned to Live?
Oh my God, that is one of my favorite movies of all time.
Golly day, that is
just incredible. It's just funny.
Yeah, Doctor Strangelove. Because some of Peter Sellers' movies are a bit of a. He's funny, but it's not. If you all you've seen are the Pink Panther Peter Sellers movies, and then you come see one of his smarter comedies, you might be bored, but because it's not slapstick. I mean,
right?
Doctor Strange, and a lot of those things are subtle. And I know Stanley Kubrick did it, but his performance, Peter Sellers' performance in that is in the boardroom scene. He comes out of the. I forget his character's name. It's been too long since I've seen the movie. But that's so. How would you rate? I don't want to sit here and try to rate all the Bond films. I don't know what would be my favorite. Would possibly be. I may have to go with Live and Let Die. So how would you rate the Bonds?
Connery, easily number one. And then probably would go with probably Roger Moore, Pierce Brosnan at a tie for two.
Right.
And then it would be George Lazenby, Timothy Dalton, and then Daniel Craig. He doesn't get a place only because since I have not seen the Daniel Craig James Bond movie, I don't know where I would put him. So I am just going to go from the I have not watched a new James Bond movie since 2011, I think is when Casino Royale came out. Maybe it's 10. Hell, I don't know. But I haven't seen anything since. The last one I saw was, I guess it's...
Casino Royale was 2006.
Damn. Okay, so before then, I think the last one, Bond, was Pierce Brosnan's last one, Die Another Day. I think that was the last one I watched.
Right.
With Halle Berry.
Right. Because basically...
I've seen the other one, like the old one, since then multiple times, but of any like James Bond film, I have not seen a single one since Die Another Day. I've seen all of them since before then, several times over.
Right. Well, I look at Roger. Sean Connery's portrayal is kind of a quintessential '60s spy, I guess.
Right.
I looked at Roger Moore. He adds, like I said, a slightly awkward comedic edge. I see Pierce Brosnan is adding sophistication back to the character.
Yes.
Almost like a suave spy. And then Timothy I just think it was just miscast. I don't know. There's nothing that goes for me. George. He because I know Sean was Scottish. Yeah, he's Australian. See, that's the thing.
He's Australian.
With George Lazenby, it's like he's on the wrong part of the UK. If you were there, he's not British. Put it that way. And then because British covers the whole thing, the islands.
Yes.
And then Daniel Craig's portrayal is like it's too modern. It just feels. I mean, I know they're trying. I mean, that's basically what they did with they rebooted it basically. Although they did it right as opposed to The Force Awakens because you had Judi Dench still being Q,
right?
But he didn't have his license to kill and all that other stuff. So it was essentially a reboot.
They just hit the reset button, really, on the James Bond character.
It was a soft reboot. It was actually, and when it paid enough homage without being a copy. So, anyways,
okay.
So let's get to our last topic so we can bring this to a close before the dogs start really bothering me. And this is one of the ones that I don't know. This is Curtis said was illegal. I don't know if it is or not. And that is the women's only viewing of Wonder Woman at that
The Alamo Room, or
Alamo Room, yeah.
yeah,
So it's
the Alamo Dome.
Alamo Dome. You know, I don't give a flying flip at all.
You can say the real word.
Nah, I really don't care if they want to do that, and if the their male customers decide, you know what, we're boycotting you for the next year or the next 2 weeks. That's fine. I don't care if it's legal or not legal, and I don't care if they let's say that it actually is a big hit and they decide to do a women's only viewing of episode 8. I still don't care.
All right. See, I'm kind of on the same boat. I don't really give a shit. I'm not interested in the movie that much anyway to begin with, so I wasn't. If they're like, "Oh, we're only letting women view this movie," it's I'm not put out any because I'm not interested enough. And even if I was interested, I could handle. Well, I'm not going to see it on opening night there. I'll obviously have to go somewhere else. As to the legality of it, there's been a lot of talk about it. I don't understand. I don't think that it's 100% illegal because if you're a private business, and that's where like a lot of the debate in the country about like not allowing like health insurance or whatever at your place of business to like pay for like abortion pills or the birth control. Or something.
Think of the bakers, right? Who weren't going to make a cake for the bakery. They weren't going to make a cake for a gay couple.
Right, and as a private business, I'm fairly certain, to a degree, you have the right to refuse certain service. I'm pretty sure, but at the same time, I don't think you're allowed to have like discriminatory service. But see, here's where, and this kind of something we talk about off air about our anarcho-capitalistic leanings and things like that. I don't think the government needs to come in and like start kicking the owners around and be like, oh yeah, you need to do this because society would fix that themselves. Be like, oh, they don't want to support other people, then we just won't go to their bakery. Not the point. The point of the discussion is it illegal? My whole thing is this. I don't know if it's illegal, but let's take women-only viewing and take the word women out and stick a different word in there of an adjective describing people, and that's when people would be like, okay, I can see where that's an issue, but honestly, I don't think they would have an issue unless you said white-only viewing of Wonder Woman or male-only viewing of Wonder Woman. Then people would get pissy.
Well, that's one of the things that there was I think someone posted on the Facebook page, the fan page, that there was a call for a male-only viewing of the next Star Wars movie, and of course the SJWs at Lucasfilm went apeshit. But, people, sometimes people will say, well, what about, Rosa Parks and the bus? Those protests for the whites, who sits where on the bus, those were government-run buses. Those were not privately owned. There were actually other bus lines in the South that were privately owned that had similar regulations, and they never protested them because they had other choices. But this was a municipal monopoly, and there was no other choice, and that's where the discrimination is. And that is absolutely wrong and illegal, that the government is not allowed to discriminate, and that's what was going on. And so it is a bit of a sticky wicket because within accordance with the tax code, a company is an artificial entity. And so since the government has created an artificial entity, they can control the artificial entity. Well, so is a person. Go read the tax code, really see what your 1040 form says with the regulations, not what the instructions say. And you, with your social security number or your taxpayer ID, are an artificial entity. So I don't want to get into all the conspiracy stuff, but in the late 19th century, we have
security number. I'm an AI.
Yeah, well, yeah, but for tax purposes, okay. But that's where the almost always, when you get these kinds of regulations, where they weasel in is through the tax code. It's just kind of like federal funding for highways or schools. This is how they jerk states around. You have to do this, you have to do that, or you're not getting your federal money.
Extortion.
It is. It is absolutely extortion. Except when you're the government, it's called taxation.
Bastards.
So, are there any other little topics that we want to quickly discuss relative to episode 73, or any of the? I'm looking at the list. We have other things, that came out and different things. I think we've at least copied.
Yeah, the only thing we
Covered a
haven't
few
touched
things.
on is the video Jeff put out, I think it was last Wednesday, about the Tom Hardy Venom movie being a bad idea for now. His main argument being because of this extensive backstory to the symbiote, the black costume for Spider-Man, and Venom and all this other stuff, that it would be like almost impossible to do in just a one movie thing.
Right.
I completely agree with him. My favorite character in Marvel Comics is Venom. He's not a popular choice by many people. Many people don't like Venom, but he's actually my favorite character. I enjoyed the Venom stories to an extent, mainly because I don't know, he just looked cool to me when I was a kid. So I just became a Venom fan, and I just stuck with it. Pretty much all the comic books I had that and over the course of my adult life, thought I didn't need, the ones that I got rid of, the things I made sure I kept were my Venom comics. Anything that had to do with Venom and Spider-Man or anything like that. And my Johnny the Homicidal Maniac run of comic books, which was a 7-issue run. If you've never heard of it, it's pretty good. Go get it. It's interesting, dark, horrible, and violent, and it's pretty damn funny. But I am 100% on board with the idea of, okay, so if we find a really good actor and we stick him in as Eddie Brock and say, you're Venom, that's going to make the movie great. Well, no, not necessarily. It's all in how you tell the story, and that's part of the reason why Spider-Man 3 sucked, and why I disavow any knowledge of Spider-Man 3, because it's like
too many villains and emo Spidey. And I don't know who's to blame for any of that.
I don't really know either, but yeah, emo Spidey sucked.
Weren't there 3 villains in
Sandman, Venom, and Goblin Jr.?
Yeah, and he throws up for like 5 minutes, and it's like, just have one. We don't need 2 origin stories with every superhero movie. I'm glad they got away from that with the Iron Man stuff. We had one villain in each, and we had a 5-minute origin for the villains. And I think, if I remember correctly on that video, Jeff was saying that it needs to be a series, and
it does.
And if they're going to do that, yeah, it's not a one-off. And you also have to figure out how you're going to tie it in, or if it's just a standalone. So let's say if it's a standalone trilogy, who owns the rights to that? Is that a Sony owns that, or is that because it's Spider-Man, but it isn't?
I really can't answer that question because I don't 100% know. I think Sony has the rights to, because I think Sony's the one that made the Amazing Spider-Man, Garfield shit movies, right?
Yep.
So I don't know if Sony just owns the rights to just Spider-Man, or if Sony paid Marvel and they have a contract that says Sony can make X number of movies. I don't know. That's actually a question for Jeff and the guys, because they are far more knowledgeable on that subject.
Okay. Well, let's close this out. You got any closing remarks or comments you want to make?
I really enjoyed Curtis's 5-hour news session the other week.
That was great. Yeah, that was like almost 2 hours, I think.
Yeah.
The 2 hour and 45-minute podcast was.
So yes, Curtis.
But he had a lot of stuff. I mean, it sparked a lot of conversation, so that was great.
Right, it did, and I'm just teasing him, but he actually brought some pretty good news. Phil isn't dead, because apparently he was commenting on Facebook today.
Yeah, 2 posts today. It was great.
So is Joel and Dan. Nick commented something the other day, but he's been on the show recently. So, again, I'm just going to go back on my bold prediction. They're currently recording right now. I know they are. They have to be, because that show is going to be hitting the airwaves. At least it hits Podbeam around midnight Friday morning, so I'm eagerly anticipating that. And pretty much, World Class Bullshit, a great show, fantastic. If you enjoy it, give them your money.
Buy a T-shirt.
Buy a goddamn T-shirt.
Sign up for their Patreon. I got to do that. Yeah, I got to figure out what I'm going to be doing. I got to do that. And I have been your host, Brain Muffin, also known as Brian Lake, because I can't figure out how to change my name on YouTube. But I'll even answer to Hey You and Hey Old Dude, since I seem to be the oldest one around on this thing. But this has been episode 1 of the Fancast, and we covered WCBS's episode 73 and some supporting videos. And we'll see you guys next time.
Yep, take it easy.